19 schooling calendar has officially come to a close. Yes, we're that far into December already, would you believe it? Scholars now enjoying their holiday before the announcement of the 2019 national results on the 7th of January. Spokesperson for the Gauteng Department of Education, Steve Mabona, always a pleasure to have him with us here on ENCA to reflect, I think, a difficult academic year. We're going to talk about some of the violence in schools. It's obviously an issue for parents next year. But then we need to talk about enrollment. Mr. Mabona, good to have you with us. Your overview of the year, successful or too many lessons to learn?
Thank you very much, Gareth. Look, the online admissions gave us some challenges, but not the system challenges. As some of the people will say, we have a capacity challenge where we would have placed, some parents in schools that they will say, no, I didn't apply for this one. I applied for school A, but we gave them school B because of the capacity that we are challenged with. And for us as a department, because we've got an obligation to place, we cannot not place, your child in an alternative school. That's why we then appeal to some of the parents that, look, take the space that we are giving you. Those that have appealed and they have objections or their objections, we're in a position to say, look at the case and decide on how we're going to accept them.
When it comes to the rejection of an application or the request for an application to be reviewed for a child to go to an alternate school, what are those parameters where you'd normally say to a parent, your child can't go here from a capacity issue, but we'd rather than go to this school? What are some of the biggest issues that parents are raising when the department says, I've got place, but you need to go here? What is the biggest argument you're dealing with?
Well, among others, it will be saying that school that we are offering is far from where I stay. And others will say, no, the school that we are offering me, I don't want it. Others will tell you that no, the track then, I don't want my child to be there, or they don't teach. But our argument is that if we don't work together to change these schools, because we come a long way where at some point we had township schools that were not functional. But when you look at our matric results now, there's about 12 schools that are giving us 100% in the township. They didn't, mushroom from anywhere. They had challenges, but parents had to work together and make sure that they change. Because the schools are governed by parents. We need to understand that, and we need to put an emphasis that parents, they have powers to govern schools, and they need to do that. So we will encourage them to work together and make sure that they change all those schools that they don't want.
When it comes to the registration of pupils for the next following year, the following academic year is what I mean to say, we've been seeing parents on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and I'm sure you're aware of many of them, are saying that they'd enrolled and applied long before they had to, before the closing date of that, and yet their children still weren't making it into that. Some are saying it's all good and well if you've applied late or you left it to the last minute, but some children and their parents applied very early on but are still being moved aside. Why would something like that happen if they've applied so early? How's the grading work? How do you decide? Is there a first in, first out?
No. You see, what we were doing this year, we were implementing our admission regulations, which have been amended and gazetted, to say you look at the parent that is very close to the school, you look at the sibling, in some instances you go to those that work closer to the schools, and then you will move to beyond, to 30-kilometer radius and beyond. But you see our challenge because of capacity. Most of the schools were full, when you look at the first two categories, whether they stay closer to the school or they have siblings. Hence, those that were objecting, we had to look into those cases and check whether do they have siblings there. But in some instances, you will have those that will have siblings in those schools, but they still stay outside probably the feeder zone because of the benefit of the siblings. Then they will be accommodated in those schools. So that's the challenge that we have. But bottom line, we have a challenge of capacity. I mean, if we have a school that had probably over 1,500 applications, it means, and the capacity is about 300, it means we are sitting with about 1,200 parents that will be saying, were not placed there and we are not happy. But among others, we also have those parents that did not submit documents. Those we did not send them SMSs because we cannot place without documents.
How many, as a final question to you, Mr. Mabona, if you don't mind, how many students, to your knowledge, as of today, have not been placed in schools next year, A, and how many places are still available that these children could still very well go to?
Well, we have placed all those that are qualifying, they have applied, we have placed all of them. The issue for us now is the objections and the appeals. Those that are appealing to say, yes, you have placed me, but I don't want the school. So we are working very closely with them, consulting with them, because probably a district might have erred, you know, and we're in a position as head office to say, no, let's rectify this case. Because in some instances, there are parents that have submitted documents, but the school could not capture. Among others, they will say, no, we were offline, or we could not, capture the documents. Then that parent cannot be disadvantaged. If there's a proof that the parent has submitted documents, then we go back to the school and say, but it's your error, you need then to accommodate this parent. And so that's what we are doing. We've started today to look at all the appeals, and we are sure that at least we will be in a position to accommodate all of them.
All of them. All right. I'm sure as we get into early January, Mr. Mabona, you and I could very well be having a conversation about school enrollments, but for the moment, I appreciate your time coming in to speak to us here on The Lead. Steve Mabona, spokesperson for the Gauteng Education Department.